Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Dark Pixel Podcast. My name is Mike.
I'm Kason.
And today we have some it's pretty cool news, I guess. It's not quite like a huge, gigantic reveal, but it is still very interesting. Apparently, there's been, as you guys probably know who have been following Final Fantasy VII Remake news, they announced recently that they're going to be, or that they had redesigned Cloud from the version we saw in the original trailer and then the PSX 2015, I think it was, trailer that they showed. They've redesigned him a little bit, but they were keeping it all behind closed doors. They were allowing, invite-only journalists to come in and see it, but they didn't let anyone take any pictures or anything like that. However, now, apparently, we have actual photographs, very low-res photographs.
Which means they're probably not official, right?
I believe they are. I'll give some context as to where these came from. But I will move over to my display here, and you can see this image of Cloud. This is apparently the redesigned Cloud for the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, okay, let's talk about context for this first. Here's another one. It's a little hard to see the details because it's a very low-res image.
And what I do see, I don't know.
This Twitter page is this is the guy who sort of like got this out there. Saying there's new development pics for Final Fantasy VII Remake. The fireworks shot, there's more. He's talking about this fireworks shot here.
Oh, yeah.
The fireworks shot might not be from it, though. These pics came from a presentation unrelated to FF7 Remake that Visual Works did in conjunction with Unreal Engine 4. Goes on to say here, there's a whole bunch of stuff. Now there's so many people commenting. Hold on. Okay, the fireworks shot looks like Midgar. The slide with these pics was about Visual Works show reel they showed just prior to it, not shown publicly. It mentions the first pic is pre-rendered look dev test, second is real-time mocap preview, and the third is for the VR thing that's at Square Enix Cafe. So this is a mixture of things. First of all, the image here, the fireworks, is from a VR thing from the Square Enix Cafe, he's saying. There's also, I have it up here somewhere. I think it's this. So I'm going to play this video real quick, because this is the Final Fantasy XR ride that they have at Universal in Japan. And there's a ride on there. It's sort of like a simulator / virtual reality thing, where they have like Cloud and Sephiroth like fighting.
We can't show you exactly what the ride is.
Just freaking turn that down. Anyways, so we see the ride here. They're getting on. They have the VR headsets on. You see like Cloud and Sephiroth are fighting in the city. This is the Cloud model that's used in this is from Advent Children, not the one that we were just looking at.
I figured.
Yeah, so we know that Cloud model is not being used in the Cafe VR thing. It's not being used here on this Universal ride, and that the image there has a guy in a mocap suit with Cloud next to him. So you might be looking at it and thinking, well, this looks kind of strange. It doesn't look very good. Well, first of all, it's low res. Second of all, it's a real-time preview from the motion capture section. So they're able to look at a monitor, and this guy is moving, doing animations that are able to see the animations like in real time on the actual model. So this does not have like environmental shading and lighting on it.
Yeah, and that's why that close-up of his face looks wrong.
Yeah.
No shading, basically.
Yeah, that's why it looks not super good. But this is the model that they are using in the motion capture settings, or in motion capture for Final Fantasy VII. This
cool.
First image here in the T pose is one that does have environmental lighting and shading on it. It's actually been rendered so that one looks like it fits the environment a little better, right? than this one does. But anyways, from what we can see from this, they've poofed out his pants a little bit here towards the bottom. He's got a little bit of his hammer pants going on there. I'm sure a lot of people who were into the original design of Cloud will be happy about that. He looks slimmer for sure. I know that what a lot of people were saying when they were actually invited behind closed doors to see this is that he looked younger. I can kind of see that in his face a little bit. Sharper features a little bit, but not terribly different. His hair's not quite as huge as it was in the original. I actually have I think an image here.
Yeah, the side by side
of the original Cloud that was in the first trailers versus this one. Like the eyes and mouth, I think, are eyebrows, I should say, like the brow section and the mouth look a little different. But overall, it's not like tremendously different to me. The hair seems to be a little different color, but I think that's more or less just not having the environmental lighting on it. Like his hair's a little greener in this image, but that's because he's in Midgard and he's got green light all around him. Overall, though, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't call it like a tremendously huge difference, but it is a little different. It is a little bit different. And apparently this was what they thought was truer to the original character. And of course, Nomura talked about how the original character wasn't the tough guy that he, was posing to be and whatnot, and that was kind of part of their, I guess, mindset behind this redesign as well, whatever that means. But it's not a lot to go on. I said,
and it's not enough, I wouldn't think, to have spent too much time redesigning. The changes aren't all that big, or to even have made a big deal about it. But
sure,
yeah,
it is what it is. But I thought you guys would find that interesting. Of course, we'll be waiting for a while before we see any sort of trailer for this, where we see it in action, rendered with environmental lighting and effects and shading and all kinds of stuff. We got people in here. Hammermeister saying he prefers the chibis. Just go back to the chibis.
I personally do too. I totally do. Oh man, it's funny because they haven't shown anything about Final Fantasy in so long, and they chose to finally show something in a closed door event to like not very many people. Like, come on, I don't know, weird stuff.
Yep, it's I don't know. They're definitely like keeping their mouths shut about it until after Kingdom Hearts 3 comes out for sure.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts 3.
So Kingdom Hearts 3, baby. That's the benchmark. Once that comes out, once everyone has a good time playing that
year is the thing.
That's true. 2019, January 2019.
Whatever Square wants to do at this point, I'm sure people have been put off enough to where it's like, it'll come when it comes, whatever. But it's weird that they chose to do it this way. And of course, something's going to leak, and it's not going to be very high res. And I don't know if they wanted, like, they should have put this out themselves. Because this looks weird. There's something strange about, what we're seeing here. And it's low res, and we can't really even tell.
Yeah, it was a part of some sort of presentation that Unreal Engine and forget the other name of the company. Anyways, a company that is doing work on these other VR things, but also on the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Some kind of presentation they were putting together and showing. There was a YouTube video they had linked, but they had cut out the part with the motion capture thing there with Cloud's face. Anyways, that's our first look. It's not the greatest look, but
I'd say we
still
don't know, because without the proper shading and like the ambient occlusion and stuff, it just doesn't look right.
Yeah, a lot of people here saying like, "Oh man, it looks bad," and I think that's the reason why it looks bad is because it's just
being rendered on the fly.
A real time preview of motion capture session. So
yeah.
Anyways, thought you guys would be interested in seeing that.
I think that's very interesting. I mean, it had been rumored for a while that Nomura wanted to redesign Cloud, but all right, this is it, I guess.
This is it. Okay. We're going to move on to some questions from the audience. We got some good ones this week.
We do.
One I wanted
before
to...
we move on, there's one thing that I forgot to mention before the podcast. I just remembered it, and it's totally something we should talk about.
Oh, okay.
Project Octopath Traveler, the team behind that game, says that they set out to make, in essence, a spiritual successor to Final Fantasy VI.
I remember reading that, yes.
Yeah, so that was about a week ago that this came out. I think that's crazy because my initial thought when I saw Project Octopath was, whoa, they should remake Final Fantasy VI using this style, right? And it turns out that Final Fantasy VI was a huge inspiration. In fact, I wouldn't be too surprised if they were like, let's test out something like this so that we can remake Final Fantasy VI. Because I think Final Fantasy VII Remake has taken so long that they don't want to remake their games. They do want to remake them eventually, but they don't want to have them be this big, all of them, because it would take. I'd be 50 by the time Final Fantasy IX came out, let alone 6, which they would probably totally skip over. And so, if they have some type of wiggle room to where they could do this to a couple of the older games, I think that's awesome. So it's really cool to hear that was essentially the inspiration.
Yeah, I did remember reading that, and it does say. Or it does hopefully bode a possibility of Final Fantasy games being remastered in a similar style as Octopath Traveler. I'd really like to see that versus, say, a full remake on the scale of what they're doing for 7.
I wouldn't want to see that. I don't want that, yeah.
For Final Fantasy VI or Final Fantasy V or something, like I wouldn't want to see that. I would love to see them being done like Octopath Traveler is being done.
Absolutely. Cool. Which this week... It's coming.
Matthew Alder just said Octopath style remakes would be preferable to the Secret of Mana style. That's for sure. I agree with that for sure. I wasn't a huge fan of the style of the.
There was something weird about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was almost like that's something Nintendo could maybe pull off. Like it was almost like a Link Between Worlds kind of.
Yeah.
Where everything's rounded and it's a top down. But yeah, Project Octopath allows you to keep the beauty of the pixel art, which is so nostalgic to me, and instead of the smoothed over plain surfaces and stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a big fan. I would love to see more of it. So, Octopath Traveler is coming out on Friday.
I think it's Friday. Yeah,
I believe I will be doing a live stream at some juncture on Friday. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what my workload is, but I'm planning on doing that. So, look forward to that. And let's move on to some of our questions. We got some great questions. There's one I wanted to get out of the way right off the bat. Because this is something that I don't want to just surprise everybody with when it happens. Be like, well, bam, things are different now.
Yeah, we should
slowly ease into so that people are aware it's coming, people are ready for it, people are excited about it, and it's not just like a huge slap in the face when it happens. Okay, so the question comes from Price Everett, and it comes from Patreon. He says, you've posted on Patreon about how there is a rebranding of the channel coming. This week, Kaysen posted a video about gaming disorder, and it was a good bit different in style. I really enjoyed the use of more humor throughout the video. Is this part of your new strategy of making content that comes from the rebranding? What type of content is staying around after the rebranding? Keep up the great work. These are all very good questions, Price. So, there's a rebranding coming to the channel.
There is.
First and foremost,
there's no way around it.
We are working on rebranding the channel. Reasons for this are numerous. I think just to be brief, Dark Pixel was a name that was chosen for a different channel than this. It was our filmmaking and visual effects channel, where we did comedy sketches and parodies and action videos and awesome VFX and stuff like that. It fit, I think, well with what we were trying to do over there. And over here on the gaming channel, where we make a very different kind of video.
The pixels are way less dark. So
it's much less dark.
It doesn't work anymore.
Not very dark. What we do is not dark stuff.
It's not as dark. I chose Dark History just because it fit with Dark Pixel, but it's generally not dark stuff.
Yeah. So, because that's the case, we've been thinking about a new logo, a new name, new colors, things that fit the theme of what we want to do on the channel moving forward.
Yeah.
So that is coming in the coming months.
At some point.
But we're going to kind of remind you guys as we're getting closer that these things are happening.
Yeah.
So anyways, that being said, we are going to be changing the style of our videos a little bit. It's not going to be totally different. I mean, a lot of the reason why we were changing the brand in the first place is because the style of video we make didn't fit the name or the color scheme or the feel. So we have a feel that we've created already.
Yeah.
And so we're sort of going to be, we've decided on some things we'll decrease or some things we'll get rid of, but a lot of stuff is going to remain the same. We're still going to be talking about video games primarily, I think. We're still going to be doing long form analysis and, like deep dives into storytelling, good storytelling, that sort of thing is going to be a big focus. Yeah. So, but we also want to be able to branch out a little bit more into talking about more than just video games or just JRPGs. If you have watched our videos the last few weeks, you'll see very good examples of the kind of thing we want to make. Yeah. We've been using movies as examples from what we've been talking about. And so there's just a lot more to it than just video games. But video games are always part of the focus of the videos. Kaysen's video on why remake Final Fantasy VII, Kaysen's video on ambiguous endings, my video on the music and Mass Effect. All of this are really good examples. We wanted to have some videos out there that demonstrated this so you guys could see it first. But these are all good examples of the kind of video we want to make moving forward. And so if you guys enjoyed those, you guys liked those, that's basically what the videos are going to be. So there's not going to be a huge change in terms of what you're seeing on the channel now and what we'll be making when the brand change happens.
However, the kind of, I guess, crux, like the middle part of the
hold on, we're losing you, Kaysen. We're losing you. 1 second.
Humor was probably a bit much. We are.
Okay.
I'm
there?
Experimenting.
Can you hear me, Kaysen?
Like,
crap.
Is more humor. What?
Okay, can you hear me? Are we synced up yet? Your internet connection dropped there. I think he's gone. Okay, when he comes back, we'll have him continue to elaborate on what he was saying there. In any case, yeah. So to get back to the question a little bit here, I really enjoyed the use of more humor throughout the video. Is this part of your strategy? What type of content is staying around after the rebranding? So I will just say this to get it out of the way. I am no longer interested in doing reviews. Now, let me explain what I mean by that before people freak out, because I know reviews were a big part of why a lot of people subscribe to the channel and everything. I am more interested in diving in and analyzing what makes these games and these movies that we love, what makes them resonate with us so much, like what makes them so unique. Why was it that we are so attached to them? What made them great? I'm more interested in analyzing that than I am in doing a laundry list of pros and cons for why something was good and being like perfectly balanced on both sides. Kaysen's back. Hello, welcome.
Hi, sorry, I can explain, but okay.
So, I'm writing my Chrono Cross review. I actually just finished it before we hopped on and started doing our podcast now. And one thing that I was writing it, I was into it, I was, especially during the story part where I was kind of describing my feelings on the story, and then I got to the gameplay section, and I just, the game is so, it's difficult to describe. There's a lot to it. It's very layered. It's really good. I really like the gameplay in Chrono Cross, but I had absolutely no motivation, no will to describe all of that in detail. I didn't want to talk about it. I felt like because it's this is the style of video I've been doing, that I felt like obligated. I have to. This is what's expected of me. And I feel like especially with the Final Fantasy 13 review and the Chrono Cross review, that I was doing something because it was expected of me rather than because I felt motivated or passionate. And the longer I continue to do that, the more obvious it's going to be that I'm not actually enjoying creating these videos anymore. So that's a big part of what's going to be decreased, is critical analysis. I'm not going to be so much interested in criticizing or trying to point out why something didn't work, as much as I am on choosing specific projects that resonated really well with me and really diving into them and describing why they work so well. So that doesn't mean critical analysis is going to go away or that we'll never do criticism. It just means we're decreasing the amount that we will be doing it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
What were you saying before?
Just about the injecting humor into videos. It's not something we do very often, but it's something we used to do a lot. On our original Dark Pixel YouTube channel, we did almost nothing but make jokes and make funny stuff happen, and most of our videos were based on some sort of joke, right? And they were funny, and we did funny stuff. And since we've been running this channel, it's like, okay, a lot less humor has been going into our videos. So the last video that I made was, in essence, sort of me experimenting with like using humor in a video. Now, as we go to the very next question, we're going to talk about maybe some other ways that I suppose I should have done that. But that is kind of the idea. And that's something that me and Mike both talked about, and that we want to try to make our videos more fun and still informative and engaging, as opposed to just purely informative. So
Kaysen's been doing a better job experimenting with the humor than me. In my music video, I had, I think, one joke, or if you could maybe count it as two. They were right back to back, and that was it. So I have to do a little better on that front of balance.
But as whatever you feel comfortable with. But I don't know, that's just kind of a thing that we're gonna try to do sometimes. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. Hopefully you guys appreciate it.
There's a comment here from, where was it? From Carlos. It's Eduardo Vieira. He says, "Hey, won't you make a Final Fantasy X-2 review? I need it." The reason why I wanted to point out that comment in particular is because this is exactly the point I'm trying to make about the issue.
The sustainability.
See, when I make, let's say, when I made my Final Fantasy VII review, right? Or let's even go with Chrono Trigger. I think Chrono Trigger is a better example. Chrono Trigger is my favorite game of all time.
Thanks,
there was so much passion that I put into that, and I tried to sort of weave this emotional tie into the ending. And you get people saying things like, "Oh man, I've never had a review bring me to tears before. Like that was crazy." And it's because the entire
are very good.
The entire I guess goal with the video was to help the audience feel the same things I felt when I played Chrono Trigger. And when I played Final Fantasy X-2, I didn't feel those things.
It wouldn't be as fun of a review to watch, right? Is that essentially what you're getting at?
Yes. So here's the problem. I have a certain number of games for which I can do those really emotional, powerful reviews for. That list has been not depleted, but severely reduced at this point. I've done most of the games that I feel that way about at this point. So what happens is you have people in the comments that are saying, "Hey, do this, but for my favorite game." Whether that's Final Fantasy X-2, whether that's Chrono Cross, whether that's, I don't know, any number, Grandia, some other JRPG, whatever the game is, it's like, do that, but do it for my favorite game. The problem is I can't, because I'm not always going to like the same games that you guys like. There are some games that you guys are going to love that I'm just not going to like very much. And so I can't create that experience for you with the review. So for me, it's better to take an element. let's say, for instance, I'm going to be doing Vagrant Story here pretty soon. And rather than doing a Vagrant Story comprehensive retrospective review like I have been doing, which is 45, 50 minutes long, always getting longer because I'm expected to go even more in depth every time, and the videos take 7 months to make. Instead of doing that, I can do which is what I'm planning to do soon, Vagrant Story, how to construct a perfect intro sequence. Yeah. And I can just break down the intro sequence of Vagrant Story alone and talk about how awesome that was and how well done that was and break it down as the reasons why. Then I can make a separate video on the music of Vagrant Story if I wanted to, or the writing or storytelling of Vagrant Story or whatever. That way I don't ever have to feel obligated to talk about gameplay elements if I'm not passionate about it. I don't have to feel obligated to talk about things that I don't think are that good. The way is in a review, you're kind of expected to give this balanced approach. Yeah. And so,
and
go ahead.
That is like, in a review, having to talk about every single thing, this new approach allows us to really just focus on the best aspects of a game. And essentially, after you make 6 videos on Vagrant Story, that would essentially be like an hour-long review of Vagrant Story by the time you're done, because you've eventually touched on everything. But it's easier, or it's not easier, it's better to make a video, front to back, beginning to end, just covering a single topic than it is to allow that topic to get lost in the midst of all the other stuff you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it'll make it so that we can get the videos done quicker as well.
Yes, quicker. So, and we got multiple videos on one game, as opposed to, at the moment, it's the one review, and then it's like, all right, what else can we talk about now? You touched on everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that is more or less a rundown of the channel branding, or rebranding, I should say, and how we'll be handling our videos moving forward. For the most part, it's going to be similar in that you can expect, analysis of a similar style to what we've been doing, just more focused and not quite so limited to have to stay only in the realm of video games, and especially only in the realm of JRPGs, which is something that is becoming fatiguing for me. I'd like to talk about some other things. I like things outside of JRPGs. I like lots of other things.
Yes, many.
So,
many.
That's what's going on with the rebranding.
Yeah.
If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave a comment, and we'll get to you on that if we can.
Absolutely.
Okay. Next question comes from Caleb Dalton. Kaysen's video today was fun, but had a serious topic that got me thinking. I just wanted to genuinely know how you all felt about gaming addiction, and if you think it actually has or could have a significant impact on a societal level.
And this is something I probably should have talked about in the video. Anyways, I just thought it was funny that WHO was listing video games basically alongside drugs as, an addictive thing. And I was like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
But it is serious. It totally is serious. And I mentioned this like once or twice in the video because some people have died because they play games too much. That's crazy. That's not funny. That's not something that I care to make light of. Gaming disorder is not necessarily the 7 or 8 people who've died by playing games too much. It's more like it's what affects the 99.9% of people who it may affect, which is a very small percentage of the people who actually play games. And that's something I think they neglected to mention, is that a lot of parents, like, that's why I started the video out that way. How many of your parents thought you play games too much? And I don't know who wouldn't raise their hand that's watching the channel, unless you had the coolest mom in the world, or unless, I don't know. But even if you just play games for 3 hours a week, right? It's like your parents will just naturally think that you should have been doing something else. It doesn't matter. And so the idea that parents now feel that they have this, new thing, to this new World Health Organization listing to now take their kid to get treated for a disorder that is they just like to play games that are fun. Anyways, that was more or less what I was trying to poke fun at. But it is serious.
Yeah. Caleb, thank you for the super chat. Says, hope my question didn't make you guys think that I didn't enjoy the humor. I just felt like it would be a good topic to elaborate on. You guys rock.
Oh,
Thank you.
It was a great. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, when it comes to disorders, addictions, I mean, you know, of course, and this was kind of a sentiment that was often and I would say aggressively shared in the comments of that video. I think people were a little defensive, a little bit needlessly, because I don't think you, Case, and anything you said in that was indicating that maybe the title is what got people freaked out.
It's okay. Go back to the last question of we're rebranding, we're changing things are going to be different now. Titling has been by far the hardest thing to get right in terms of these new videos that we've been making, as far as how do we maximize reach and potential but minimize problematic comments. Once people get to the video, it still needs to be relevant. And I thought that title was funny, but a lot of people I don't think actually watched the video and just kind of went straight to the comments based on the title. Anyways, I throwing that out there. Titles are hard.
Titles are difficult. No. Now, the title was basically something like you are addicted to video games or something like that. And I think a lot of people got defensive immediately and maybe watched the video.
I mean, of course.
Yeah, watched the video with a certain mindset. I don't think Kaysen was saying anything about the fact that if you play games this much, then you have a disorder or you're addicted or whatever. And a lot of the comments may not have actually been directed at Kaysen so much as at who or society in general who are trying to label people who do this as a hobby, who even maybe engage in it for something like 20 to 30 hours a week, as being addicts or having a disorder, when I would say for the vast majority of cases is not true. Addiction, I'm not a freaking doctor or a psychologist. I can't freaking diagnose that. But as far as I understand it, when something is becoming such it's taking up such a huge portion of your life that it's negatively affecting your ability to function. It's
or form relationships,
making it so that you're not forming relationships, you're not taking care of your responsibilities, you're not going to work, you're not getting things done in the real world. If you are at the point where the game means more to you than anything else and everything else is being neglected because of it, obviously at that point it's where we're talking about it becoming a disorder, or saying that you're addicted to that thing and that you need some help to, bring some more balance to your life. Now, if you're just a hobbyist and you really like games, but you're still taking care of yourself, you're still taking care of your family and your responsibilities, and you're still making progress in other areas of your life, and all that's still happening, then no, it's not an addiction. It's not a problem at all. You can spend your free time however you want. No one should criticize you for that.
I think the idea is that people who are addicted often don't necessarily realize they're addicted. So they think that they've got it all under control. Mm-hmm. They think that their life hasn't yet spiraled in a downward direction. Whereas people around, that's why interventions happen so often, is other people can see that this person's life is dragged down, but they can't see it themselves. And so, but this type of definition kind of necessitates the person to self-identify as a video game addict, because it would be different for everyone as to how many hours of games you can play before you've played too much and your life's kind of going out of control now. But that definition is also why I brought up freaking like U.S. gymnastics athletes, basically. Like the detriment to their lives of doing nothing but playing a sport for 10 years. Especially like the girls I was showing from China, where 12 hours a day every day for 10 years they are doing gymnastics and they win a gold medal, great. And now it's like they have no social lives, they have no friends, they have very little, even their family they didn't get to see very often because they were training so much for the Olympics. And it's like, is that an addiction? Like, because it negatively impacted their lives, like severely, but they got an award for it, so I guess it's not an addiction, right?
It's well, in addition to that, it could just be a powerful sense of ambition, right? Someone else in the comments brought up esports, you know, like people who play video games for a living and make money and that sort of thing and are on
So
teams.
if you make money, is it no longer, it's not an addiction now because you're making money doing it?
I think again, it really just depends on whether or not you can step away from it, whether or not you can step away from it, whether or not you can find balance in your life and you can maintain relationships and you can take care of yourself and the people who you're responsible for. And if all of those things are happening and you're doing fine, but you still, you know, spend what would be, you know, working hours or whatever, improving your skills and working with your team to get better at the game and whatnot, or if you're an Olympic gymnast, like a lot of times, I mean, this is true even for, you know, executives of huge companies, you know, they often will jeopardize their relationship with their families. They'll, a lot of those things suffer because they work, and they call them workaholics, right? And they're addicted to work, you could maybe say. Again, I don't think any of us or could diagnose that, but there is certainly an imbalance there that is negatively affecting people. And the entire idea of labeling, you know, something as a disorder is not to point the finger and be like, you have a problem, like something's wrong with you, like get yourself together, as much as it is to say, in order to live a healthier life, you probably need more balance. You probably just need to, you know, step away a little bit more and engage with people and that sort of thing, and just bring more balance into your life. That's really what it's about.
Which, and I every time I hear you say something, I'm like, hey, but that's why I brought up your mom, because you don't know. Other people tell you that you're playing games too much. Or that's why I brought up Pokemon Go, because you can step outside and socialize and be around people and be outdoors and walk around and still be playing a video game, right? Like, I'm pretty sure that this whole thing was brought about by Fortnite because kids are freaking just playing Fortnite day and, you know, all forever. Just their whole lives are spent playing Fortnite now when they get home from school till they go to sleep, right? And it's crazy popular right now. But to classify all video games under the exact same is, I don't know. It showed a little, at least a small level of ignorance on the World Health Organization's part, and also a weird, like, willful ignorance, which I don't even know what you would call that, because they know it, but they're pretending they don't know it, of typical media addiction, like social media addiction or cell phone addiction, or things that are clearly problematic. But of course, you gotta go after the video games because it's such an easy target. That's, I don't know.
A couple things I want to address from the comments here. AF Costa says lol and then puts in quotes, if you make money with it, it's not an addiction. We didn't say that.
People deal drugs. People make money. We didn't say that. Drugs.
And well, Hammermeister also says, does that mean if you're addicted to drugs and you start selling them, you're no longer addicted? No, that's not at all what we're saying. We're saying that we said nothing like that.
Are you addicted or not? Is and that's kind of what Mike's trying to get at. Is like, it's different for everyone. It's hard to maintain that balance, and if it's slipping, whether you realize it or not, maybe you have a problem.
And it's also to say that some people who use drugs aren't necessarily addicted to them. Sometimes they're used, you know, what's the word? Recreationally,
whatever. Yeah.
But the person isn't actually addicted, as in to say that if it was taken away, they wouldn't experience withdrawal symptoms, or they wouldn't, you know, that part of their life is not dominated by the drug. Their decisions aren't dictated by getting the next high or whatever. Some people are not addicted. That's a fine line to walk. If you're going to go and start trying to use like hard drugs recreationally, it's difficult to say that you're not going to come out addicted in some sense, or at least dependent on them to some level. But the point is that calling something an addiction is a case-by-case basis. And like Kason was pointing out, a lot of times people won't admit it or don't want to admit it. And that's the biggest problem. That's the first hurdle you have to overcome, is being able to actually look inward and say, am I addicted to this? Can I step away from it? Is it overtaking my life? And so if it is, and you're being real about it, and it's like yes, I feel this draw to play video games. I want to get away from my responsibilities. I don't want to think about them. I don't want to handle that. That's when it's starting to become a problem, and you're moving into the realm of disorder. If it's not, it doesn't matter how much you play. Let's say you play 80 hours a week, but at the moment that a personal responsibility comes up, you got to have this thing done. If you can turn that off and walk away and go do that, then it's not an addiction. So yeah, like no one's making any kind of claim here that if you make money doing it, then it's not an addiction, or
we're just bringing
anything like that. So,
but the idea that video games are addiction does beg the question: what about people who do play professional esports? According to the World Health Organization, that does present them a problem, because you're playing the game a lot, and you're traveling the world, and you're going places to play games. And I don't know, like, according to their definition, it's problematic. It's akin to doing something that maybe should possibly be illegal and going around and making money off of it, but or that causes psychological harm or distress. But
Hammermeister brings up, I think the mainstream media hates video games because they don't understand them. There is definitely a lot of truth to the fact that right now video games are a scapegoat and an easy target for problems that we don't really understand right now.
Yeah.
We don't understand right now. There's not been enough studies done to understand why the kind of violence that we're experiencing, especially in the United States right now, is such a problem. And it's really easy. It's easier, let's say. It's easier to point at something and say, that's the reason. Go after that. Right. Whether you're on the side of guns are the problem, we have to take guns away. Whether you're not on that side and we're saying it's video games that are the problem, you got to limit the video games away. The truth is that those are just ways that humans try to latch onto something because they want to do something about the problem. Right. And whatever they can come up with, they go after. That we got to get rid of this thing so that we can fix this problem. Yeah. The issue is that in order to truly understand it, it's going to take years of study. And a lot of times studies require, especially anything that involves government studies, they require government funding, which means it's got to be passed and approved of and all this stuff, and so it goes even slower. Right. But the psychological reasons for why these kinds of things are happening are not well understood yet. And so the media, your parents, all kinds of different people are going to try to find a reason, because as humans, we can't stand not recognizing the pattern. What's the pattern? Right. Why is this happening? Let's get it figured out and let's fix it. And when we don't know, it just creates chaos, and we have to try and do something. So that's the case to a huge extent with video game addiction. I just don't think we obviously we understand it can be an addiction, and as many people
you can be addicted to literally anything because it's your brain, it's the neurons, it's the what do you call it, the like serotonin, or it's the nerves firing in your brain that make you happy, that is essentially like the root of your addiction. It's, you know, things that make your brain fire in certain ways, and that can happen for almost anything.
Yeah. So exactly. I mean, there are obviously tons of people addicted to food, and so you'll see a lot of people asserting the straw man. Well, people are addicted to food, so we should stop eating food. No one's saying we should stop eating food, and also no one's saying we should stop playing video games.
Well, some people are saying that, but no reasonable person.
Very, very small, radicalized group of people might be saying
old people
video games should not exist anymore, but not
it's
to
against
any extent,
the natural order.
Not to any extent to where there's any real threat of video games not being a thing anymore.
Yeah, that's for sure.
There's no reason to feel like people are coming after your video games. It's not going to happen. Now, that being said, obviously, they can be used as an escape, and it can become a problem. But I would say for the vast majority of people, even people who spend a lot of time playing video games, it's probably not an addiction. It's probably not a disorder.
Yeah.
but it
I'd agree
can
with that.
be. And
It
you
can
just
be
should
very
you should just
extreme.
you should just watch. Everyone should just watch and make sure that you're still living a balanced life, so you can be healthy and happy and experience all there is out there for you to experience in life. So, anyways, that's our thoughts on that topic. We should get away from that.
We are done. Done with the addiction.
Okay. Christopher Guin asks the next one. What if they demade Final Fantasy XIII into a 16-bit Final Fantasy VI style game with an overworld and exploration? Is there anything of value in the world, characters, and story that could be emphasized and elaborated on in a less expensive, less linear game? Okay, I'm going to send this to you right now, Kason.
Well, show me something.
So that you
but
can
I would
see this
say,
alongside them.
I'll let you know if I can.
What I was going to do was I was going to show everybody this awesome video where they essentially did exactly that. It's right here. It's a little video doing a retrospective of what happened in Final Fantasy 13 and 13
This is on
too,
the
I think.
PlayStation channel?
Yeah, PlayStation channel. I'm going to turn down a little bit. But essentially, this is a recap of the story of Final Fantasy 13, and I think 13 too as well, leading up to the release of Lightning Returns. And this is freaking sweet. If they if they made this into a game, I would be all over this. I seriously would. For a couple of reasons. One, I think a large part of the reason why Final Fantasy 13... I think two things. Two things that people really didn't like about it was the voice acting was kind of cheesy, and that kind of hurt the delivery of the story a little bit. And then the linearity of it, right? But if it was done in this style...
Linearity is not as big a problem in 16-bit, though.
Yeah. If it was done in this style, I don't think that that would have been an issue for people as much. And in addition to that, when you're reading the text and there's not voice acting, it's going to come across a little stronger. I think that the writing on just a fundamental level had some problems, but I think they were emphasized by the vocal performances and the voice direction. So when that element is taken away, and you have this freaking amazing 16-bit art style, and even the music being done in kind of like that 16-bit style, it's actually pretty freaking sweet.
What I'm seeing here is less top-down, forward-back, and I'm seeing more like top-down, left-right, which almost gives like a side-scrolling kind of feel.
Yes, that's true.
Everything. And when you got a linear game, but it's side-scrolling, that's how all side-scrollers were back in the SNES. They're linear. You can't go anywhere else. You just go left or right. And that's how games were back then. Like, it's fine.
Yep, totally. So yeah, I think if they were to make a Final Fantasy 13 demade in this style, or maybe even like kind of what we're talking about with Octopath Traveler sort of thing.
Yeah, or Octopath.
I'd freaking play it. I'd play it for sure. I'd be way stoked.
Love it. I would absolutely love it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, anyways. I'm gonna
Who asked that question? Christopher Gwynn?
Yeah, kind of a long video there,
now,
but
this is one of the few Final Fantasy games I have not played. So in terms of is there anything of value that can be emphasized, I'll let Mike speak to that. But I would play this game.
Yeah, I think so. I think that the world of Final Fantasy 13, its lore, is really quite fascinating. I think that
Novalis, or Nova Crystallis, whatever.
And it's unfortunate that such a strong aspect of the game was sort of left to the data logs. For you to read like at your leisure, like you kind of just read it, but they don't give a lot of lore in the actual context of the storytelling, the dialogue, and that sort of thing. A little bit, but not a lot. There's so much of it that's left to the data logs. I think that they could explore that a bit more in maybe some rewrites of Final Fantasy 13, and when you don't have to create the 3D assets for stuff, and you can do some just really stylized, cool pixel art. There's probably a lot more you could do in terms of world building, in terms of like the number of areas you can go to. You know, we've talked a lot about how games have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're trying to do these bigger and more expansive worlds. But when you have, you're trying to render these worlds at the the quality with the amount of grass all over the place, it just becomes difficult.
And every scene has like 10 million polygons now, and it's like, okay, at some point you guys got to say, hey, let's make a game with this same number of polygons as last gen, except make the world way bigger. And that's honestly, that's kind of what The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild did.
Yeah.
It wasn't a crazy visual advancement, but they used, it was pretty smart.
We're downloading games onto our PCs and stuff via Steam that are like 70 gigabytes, 100 gigabytes plus.
Gosh.
Right? Imagine how many towns and NPCs you could create in a 16-bit style game with 2D assets that is a 50 gigabyte game or a 70 gigabyte game.
It would be so big you can't possibly have explored the whole thing.
Massive world. Massive, with just tons of NPCs and side quests. Think of how expansive an RPG you can make, right? So, of course, I don't expect that you would even need to go anywhere near the 50 gigabyte or 70 gigabyte mark to make something feel huge.
1 gigabyte would be pretty good for a 16-bit.
My point is that you can expand a lot more on the lore and the world of the game and give yourself more areas to explore, open it up more. And really do a lot more with that story, I feel, with a D-made style with the 2D assets than you can with trying to have top-of-the-line 3D graphics. So, I think that there's probably a lot that could be done to expand on the world of FF13 in a 16-bit style if they really wanted to go all in on it.
Totally. They wouldn't be so invested in just the visuals, because obviously that kind of distracted them a little bit. They had all this great artwork they wanted to show off, and they tried to fit the story around it. But like with the 16-bit style, it's just like that distraction is no longer present.
Mm-hmm. So, anyways, kind of a short answer, but that's what I would say for that. I would freaking love it. I want it. Make it happen, Square.
Yes,
I'll buy it.
Alex Clatton, yes, we want a 16-bit MMO. Absolutely, we do. It doesn't exist right now. It's very frustrating.
That would be sweet. Crosscode. Can you play Crosscode online with other people? I just thought of that game, because that game is kind of an MMO in and of itself. Like, the game takes place in an MMO, and it's a 16-bit indie game. Well, it's not really 16-bit, but 16-bit style indie game. But I don't know if it's actually multiplayer, but that'd be sick if it was. Okay, moving on to Jared Fight. His question is, don't know if this has been brought up, but what is your favorite or best made mobile RPG, if you have one, and why? And by mobile, I mean on the phone. I've been looking through the lists and can't make a decision on what to play next. Okay, my answer is short for this, but...
Yeah, let's hear yours first.
My answer is really short because I haven't played almost any of them. One you cannot get anymore, unfortunately. Square Enix removed it from the store because they suck. It's Chaos Rings. There is Chaos Rings 3, which is on there, which I've not tried, but I really, really liked the original Chaos Rings. It was freaking awesome. Awesome RPG. And I mean, that was one of the better JRPGs I've ever played, much less like just a mobile RPG. And this isn't quite the same, but I think it counts because I consider it an RPG, and that is Game Dev Story.
Game Dev
Story
that was
is the most fun I've ever had with a mobile game, ever. And it's basically you're the head of a development studio, a video game development studio, and like over the years you get more employees and you release games and you make money from the games and you reinvest the money, and you sort of level up your ability to make this genre or that genre of game, and you sort of mix and mash genres to create something cool. You get reviews from the media and you get like fan mail, and you go from making really crappy games to making really awesome games and making tons of money and like running this huge successful game studio. So Game Dev Story would be my favorite mobile RPG by far. I love
that game. Was sweet. That game was really cool. I actually did like Final Fantasy Record Keeper. I didn't play it too incredibly long. Brave Exvius was interesting, but they just keep adding to it. That's the problem with a lot of these phone games. I want just one little story that I can just kind of play it and be done with it, right? Game Dev Story had that, because you get to a point and it's just like it's 2050 and you're you're advertising your games by putting ads up on the moon, basically. Play this game, and it's like you're projecting it onto the moon, so the whole world can see it. And it's pretty crazy. But with the Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, it's like it just keeps getting bigger. They keep adding stuff and making more and more. And I was more intrigued at the beginning of that game, and then also the Record Keeper was just fun. It was just like a fun little thing, and they keep adding to that one as well. Just do new characters and stuff. But it's like based on art. Somebody stole all the art, and you've got to go restore it, and you play through certain scenes in Final Fantasy games. And it's what a phone Final Fantasy honestly ought to be. It's not a full game in and of itself, but it was fun to go back and play a lot of the older Final Fantasy stuff in a 16-bit kind of style and get some of those characters. That was really cool. Somebody here brought up Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. And that is, it's not great, but I do like it because of the story elements. It just takes 5 hours to get to all the story elements. And that's Kingdom Hearts Cross is the kind of game where it's very difficult to beat it if you don't want to spend any money. And I don't mean beat it as in see all the story. I mean beat it as in beat all the bosses, get all the levels, get all the badges, get all that kind of stuff. Like at some point you have to stop playing because you just don't want to spend money on it. And the game kind of forces you out at that point. But it is fun and it's addictive. Hate to use that word in a positive sense, but it's addictive. It's fun to play. And the Kingdom Hearts, the story elements that Kingdom Hearts Union Cross or Kingdom Hearts Unchained X, Kai, Key, whatever. The story elements that those bring to Kingdom Hearts is actually pretty important to Kingdom Hearts 3. So unfortunately, if you really want to know what's going on all over Kingdom Hearts, including Kingdom Hearts 3, you might even have to play the phone games, which is not something a lot of people like to hear, but it's substantial. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Somebody else brought up that Dissidia mobile game, which I've heard is great. Doesn't play like the console or the PSP Dissidia. In terms of being more of like an action fighting game, I think it's kind of turn-based sort of thing. I've wanted to try it out, just haven't had the time. So maybe I'll look into that one. Good suggestion. Okay, well, that's our answer for our favorite mobile titles. Thank you for asking the question, Jared Fight. Appreciate it. We got
Things have changed since the mobile video that I made 2 years ago.
Oh yeah, gotta make an update.
Gotta update it.
Okay, Matthew Alder asks our final question, bringing it home. What are some of the best and worst lines of dialogue you can remember from any video game? I put some thought into this. I'm going to share some of these with you too, Kaysen.
Okay.
So
I may have a couple
let me transition over here to.
Are you gonna show them?
Yeah, I'm gonna. Well, it's just this one clip.
All right.
Actually, wait a minute. I'm gonna share the actual spot in the video where it happens.
Okay.
There's a lot of games with bad dialogue. I mean, a lot. Yeah. There's a lot to choose from. It's kind of like a pick your poison sort of thing. Devil May Cry has some of the best bad lines of dialogue ever, including this one.
I should have saved you. I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light!
Like, the voice performance does not help. Where his voice cracks as he says it.
And then they echo it.
And it's echoing in the chamber. But even the line... Even the line itself is just so, such a mouthful and so wordy. I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light! Oh, that's
wonderful.
That one is bad.
That's pretty great, man. That's pretty great.
So that one, I saw someone, and I knew this would happen, pointing out this guy or sick. I know someone will probably point out some cats from Zero Wing saying all your base are belong to us. I kind of discounted those for myself because those are translated badly. The reason they sound bad is because the translation is awful. This line was translated correctly into English. I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light. It's just a really, really bad line of dialogue.
Not as bad as it gets.
But I mean, you have tons of examples from games like Dynasty Warriors and let's see,
Zero
the
Wing?
Sonic
Zero
games. Oh, Zero Wing. That yeah.
Sonic. Yeah.
Sonic games are full of terrible dialogue. Like, there's tons, but that one from Devil May Cry really stuck out to me. I just played Final Fantasy X too. That game is rife with terrible lines of dialogue. I posted some one
I got that.
on Twitter where she's like, "I don't like your plan. It sucks." So silly. That's another good example.
What the God, it's locked. What was the
that from Legend of Dragoon.
Yeah, Dragoon, that one. Yeah.
That one was hilarious. So yeah, there's a lot of really, really good examples of bad dialogue. But in terms of good dialogue, some of my favorite, like really, really good dialogue, I played Planescape Torment for the first time last year. And that game, it was written really, really well. Very, very beautiful. Beautifully written. And, the whole scene with, what is it? I'm trying to remember. What can change the nature of a man? Like a lot of philosophical stuff going on there. It's super good.
Yeah.
I feel like Mass Effect is full of a lot of really good writing. I know the first time that speaking to Sovereign, we impose order on the chaos of organic evolution. You exist because we allow it, and you will end because we demand it. Just a lot of good stuff in the Mass Effect series. What's the one where you go underwater into like the freaking underwater city? BioShock.
BioShock.
BioShock has some really good dialogue in it.
Actually does.
Some really good lines.
Yeah.
The Witcher 3 has some great writing in it, some really good stuff. I mean, I can't like pull out like any particular example, but it's just like the whole thing is written pretty darn well. So those would be my picks for my.
I've got one.
Best
Put this one up. Put it up.
Okay.
Hit play.
Oh, did you send it to me in the?
I just sent it to
Google
you in
Hangouts
the thing.
one.
Oh shoot! Did it not show?
Hold on. Because I have something else open. Did you put it in here?
I just put it in the Google Hangouts.
Okay, I see it now. I got it.
Okay, cool.
Yes, go there, please. Let me hold on. Oh, okay, it's a Zelda one. Hold on. Let me switch over.
Yeah.
To this. I think I know this scene. I hated this scene.
I was always willing to heal your wounds. Even back then.
I was always willing to heal your wounds even back then. Was there more after that?
So, no.
Okay,
that
so
was basically it.
Okay.
It's mostly that whole cutscene and her entire character. Yeah. Basically every word she says. I really, really, really did not like it. Like, I did not like it at all. I wish that they didn't have voice acting in Breath of the Wild, except they finally added the Japanese option, so I play the game with Japanese vocals now. It's better. It's better.
I think next time I play that game, whenever that is, I'll definitely play it in Japanese.
Do it.
But
they should have had that option available to begin with.
The character I did not like voice acting wise was the King of Hyrule.
In English. He sounds so cool in Japanese, though.
Dude sounded like a 25-year-old trying so hard to sound like an old man.
To sound old, yeah.
It's just like I could tell you are not old. So yeah,
he's not an old man filled with regret.
There's definitely some bad writing in Breath of the Wild. I would agree.
Yeah.
As a whole, I think that a lot of the dialogue's pretty poor. Okay.
That's one that gets me the most. There's other ones, I guess, in general, but most of it does come from bad translations. I played a lot of Japanese games. So,
yeah.
That one's the one that's most recently I heard, and it really bugged me.
All right, well, I'm sure that you guys in the chat and in the comment section can come up with some other great examples. Link me to some of the worst dialogue you've ever seen in games. I want to see it. I want to see it. If you, I want someone to top. I should have been the one to fill your Dark Soul with light. If you can send me one that's more awkward in both its delivery and in its original writing than that, then I will reward you with my like. what do they call it?
You know,
the little heart, the heart symbol, the love symbol you can give to
that
people
promotes
now.
it to the top.
Yes, I will do that
There's one
for your
other
con.
thought though. I don't know who it is, but the woman that voiced Aerith in Kingdom Hearts. Man, I hated.
Wait, wasn't she
her
actually a
voice
famous
acting.
actress? She was in some movies in the '90s and stuff. Hold on,
Who voiced
I think
Aerith? Because
Aerith, voice
Aerith
actress.
sounds terrible in Kingdom Hearts.
I
She like
know.
almost doesn't even sound like an actress.
Isn't she?
She's just like a kid
Never
reading some
mind.
lines.
I thought it was
Maybe the Crisis Core Aerith, or the Advent Children Aerith might have been,
Wait,
but
hold
not
on.
the Kingdom Hearts Aerith.
Okay, Mandy Moore. Yes,
Are you serious?
Mandy Moore in Kingdom Hearts.
Voiced Aerith
and Mena Suvari in Kingdom Hearts 2. Mandy Moore was the voice of Aerith in Kingdom Hearts 1.
but not
and
2, because I could be thinking
not
of
in 2, but in Kingdom Hearts 1. And I remember feeling like, what?
because it's bad.
She did the voice of Aerith. Are you kidding
Mandy
me?
Moore? That is weird.
Yeah, Idris Hatef is confirming it was Mandy Moore. Yeah, Mandy Moore.
Oh,
Chickatrice also said. So yeah, Mandy Moore did the voice of Aerith, and I was like, what?
Mandy Moore is a good actress.
She's decent. She's not amazing.
She was in Tangled. She's the girl in Tangled. I thought she did fine there.
Yeah, so she's done good voice acting and other things.
Yeah, animated voice acting.
Again, this comes down
This was a
to
long time ago, though.
how important voice direction is. And I will say this to the end of my life. Most of the time when something feels awkward in a JRPG from the voice, especially nowadays, now that voice acting is like expected, you have like a lot of voice talent out there. We're not talking about like late 90s stuff. I'm talking like today. Most of the time when it sounds weird, it's because they're freaking directed to say it that way. And this also actually
I could be thinking of Kingdom Hearts 2, though, just to throw that out there. It might be the 2 actress that I'm thinking of more.
So here's another thing, though. I left this in the description of last week's podcast, the Richard Honeywood interview, the guy who did a lot of the localizations for Square for like Xenogears and Chrono Cross and after that. He said in his interview that they actually don't really do realistic acting in Japan so much. There's like their sort of theater, school. Yeah. Their theater is very different. They're not going for like a realism aspect in their acting. And that carries over into how things are voiced in anime and video games and stuff like that. It's really over the top. It's very exaggerated. And they don't really tend to favor realism in the performances. And so a lot of times when games are being localized and brought to English, they're directed to sort of keep with that same kind of intonation and way of delivering lines. And for Western audiences who tend to expect more realism in the performances and into the acting, it's like really off-putting or weird. So a lot of times it's about voice direction. So Mandy Moore obviously can act and do voice work in Disney animated films. But for whatever reason, in Kingdom Hearts, they just told her to not do a good job. I would expect that because that's speculation. But anyways.
I'm gonna just say specifically it was Kingdom Hearts 2 because I don't believe that Mandy Moore was that bad. I just can't believe it. It had to have been Kingdom Hearts 2.
Okay.
I'll get back to you on that, people.
Well, people are talking about Peter Dinklage in Destiny in terms of like bad.
I never really played Destiny.
They totally revoiced the entire. They redid all the lines, and they had Nathan Drake.
Oh, of course.
Redo his entire.
That guy.
No, Nolan North. They had
Nolan North
come in and just completely reread every line. He's
probably
totally
paid him
Peter
a lot too.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. Anyways,
wow,
that's the end of our podcast, fellas. Thank you for watching. We appreciate you. You guys are beasts. Thank you for all your support. I may or may not do a stream of Octopath Traveler on Friday. Just be aware that I'm thinking about it. And if I don't see you then, I will see you on Monday for the next video. Have a great day. Peace out.